Just turn that light off. Let the other lights will be fine. I am live. Yes. Oh, good evening, everybody. All right, let's open with a word of prayer. Glorious God and Father in heaven, Lord, I thank you and praise you for everything that you have done, for the trip in which we've had, God, out to see Ghana, to see the work, God, and every blessing in which was showered upon us, and every trial on top of it. I thank you and praise you, God, in all of these things, in your Son's holy name. Amen. All right. Now, a lot of times, like when I go to Thailand, I'm not really going to have a guide. I've asked other missionaries about Thailand, and I said, is there anybody in the South? And all the missionaries said the same thing. No. Nobody's preaching the gospel in the South. So I am going to attempt, starting in May, I'm going to spend 4 months in Thailand, God willing, and work my way up the South. I'm going to start near Malaysia, and then work my way up to close to Bangkok, and then come home. So keep that in prayers. Once again, God willing, because if you ever go to Ghana, West Africa, you will have a guide. That guy, Bob Hartman. That's right. That shirt looks uncomfortable. He said it is absolutely not, because it is white and it's a little bit thicker. It reflects all the sun, and he is fine. This is Joseph. Now, Joseph lives right next door to Bob, a.k.a. Dad. I'll call him Dad. Right next door to Dad, and he is married. He has a daughter, and he understands American sarcasm. That is a breath of fresh air. I said a child, did I? Did I say daughter? I'm sorry. He has a son, Isaiah. Okay? Sorry. And a very pretty wife. I asked him. I said, hey, how did you get that wife? I was like, he goes, I tell you, I'm the best looking guy in all the village. I said, yeah, your village. And he starts laughing. He loved me. He tugged on the beard. He does all that stuff. It was wonderful. And I'm going to tell you, Satan tried his best to ruin every aspect of this trip. I mean, from the offset, just every single thing. We finally, we get off, we get to Accra, we're wonderful. Almost get hit by a car. Partially my fault. I literally wasn't watching where I was walking, and they don't really care. So then when we get to Accra, and then the power, we spent Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday there, and yeah, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday there. The power went out 2 or 3 of those days for 8 hours. So no AC, no fans. You're sitting outside trying to get as cool as you can. Yes, hi. You're trying to get as cool as you can. The very first thing that happened was I dropped my phone on the airplane. It dropped literally 18 inches, and the screen is cracked from top to bottom. So I'm like, okay, I hope it still works. It works fine, sort of. Because then when I preached on Sunday, which was great, no coffee, that was horrible. Yeah. And lo and behold, every time I bring up my notes, it shut it down. Every time I bring up all right, I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about it. Boom, shut it down. Then talk about motivation. All right, I'm going to go over this. Boom, and it closed the window every single time. Every time. Now, the guy that organizes the church there where I was preached, Amaria, his name is Collins, Mr. Collins. He's the guy that gave us the fabric for some. He bought us the fabric for some of these. He said that's Satan. It's like, that's Satan. Don't let Satan win. Just keep preaching, And I said, all right, yeah. So I had Albert Gonza up there translating for me. Now I didn't know this, but the way my father has taught these translators, Joseph was my translator up in Jumboy. How he has taught the translators is whenever you guys do something, you have to mimic the guy speaking. So my dad went over Proverbs 26. Where a lazy man, how he swings on a door is how he lays in bed. He just, and he swings, and he laid on the floor. He said, as a lazy man, and as a door swings on its hinges, so a lazy man swings in bed. And he's just like, and Dad started swinging, rolled over on the floor back and forth as a lazy man in bed, right? Then he gets up and he waits for the translator, which was Albert, talking. And he says, all right. And he says, and he translates, and my dad goes, like, what are you doing? Like, and Albert goes, you're not going to make it. He goes, oh, yeah. So he made Albert get on the ground and swing like, as he's translating it into tree. And I was like, oh, that's just so funny. Another thing was, when I was preaching in Jumboy, I preached on dealing with conflict, okay? And when I brought it up, I said, all right, if I were to insult you and say that you guys are worthless, would that hurt your feelings? And he said, yeah. Everybody said, yeah, it'll hurt our feelings. Yeah, it'll hurt our feelings. And I said, why? I don't know you. You don't know me. You could say, hey, I think that guy's a horrible human being. And I'd say, you're probably right, but you don't know me. I don't know you. You have to let it go. I said, let's say the roles were reversed, right? And he's translating. Joseph is staying with me. I mean, he is hooked to my hip. And like right there. And every move I make, he's mimicking. That's him there. He's mimicking every move I make, every hand gesture. And I said, I'm going to ask you guys something. If you were in the United States of America and I was in Ghana, West Africa, would you be here preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ to me? And he didn't even translate. He just went, no. He looked dead at me and went, no. And I just started laughing. And I said, you have to translate the question. He goes, I can answer it right now. No, we would not come here. This is hot. It's horrible. You guys live in America. And he goes, it's just the way it is. And I just laughed about that. That's me. I just laughed about that because and another thing is when Albert was preaching, which I'll get into, is something that he said as well. This is fish. It's a whole fish. They just cooked the whole fish inside the stew. Kiana had no problem, peeling it, eating it, and everything else. So this is the kind of food we're eating, right? It was actually really good. Actually, what Dinah does is my sister Dinah, she actually smokes the fish and then she freezes it after she smokes it, and then she sells it to people. People will come by and sell it, and she'll sell it to them. And all they have to do is unthaw it and then put it in the stew. So that's what she did here. And of course, that's my wonderful wife's hand. So, yeah, ODOT doesn't exist here. How they got these two cows up there is beyond me. I have no idea. They were all guessing. We're all guessing. And one of the guys was just like, I think they just kind of a ramp to put it up on a table next to it. And then they have to hook its feet and then drag it up onto the on top of the van. So there's two steers on top of this. Yeah, they're alive. You can see it, like they're tied. Their legs are tied so they don't try to stand up. But yeah, they're just driving down the road. They're going about 35 miles an hour down this road. A lot of trust. There is a lot of trust, but that's how they do it. That's how they. I tell you what, they put a lot of trust in a lot of things there. So, yeah, Kiana, if you guys are interested, Kiana does have a picture of Ibrahim and his wife Rita. Ibrahim has his wife and his 3 children all on one motorbike. Yeah, driving through Tamale to go home. So, yeah. Safety is not. Yeah, that you're pretty much, everybody puts their faith in God. It's like living in the 1980s in America. Pretty much. So this is how they travel. Okay. This is the meat market. I'm going to zoom in. Yeah, this guy's happy to see me. So these are the butchers and stuff. So I just took a picture of this, and this is how it is right out there. Yeah, right out in the open. So you have no problem. This is how you buy and sell. And this is Kiana. We're going through this is the market in Salaga. So yeah, she gets in my way here. Yeah. So this is how busy it is and how much they travel. So this is what it's like. This is what life is like. So and they buy and sell and everything else. Yeah, and Kiana wanted to make sure I put this video in. This is the road to Jumboy. Do you see how it's kind of really rocking and rolling through here? Yeah. John Boy was only 25 kilometers away. Yes. How long did it take? 2 hours. It took 2 hours for us to drive 25 kilometers because of this road. Now, Albert and Hetty had come up with us to John Boy to do preaching and teaching as well. But it was their first time ever to the north. Salaga is considered the northern region. And I said, oh, okay, wonderful. Now, when we were in Accra with Albert complained continuously about the roads. Oh, the roads are so bad here. The roads are so bad here. I'm like, I'm sorry, I have to keep slowing down to go around these bad parts of the road. And I'm like, you just wait. And then he got here and he was like, it's only 25 kilometers away. We should get there pretty quick. We should get there. He goes, even if you can go 25 kilometers an hour, we should get there within an hour. My dad's like, no, that is not going to happen. And I said, I'll give it 3 or 4 days before Albert starts complaining about his roads ever again. Yep. So the road from Tamale to Salaga is paved little bit by little bit at the end of each election. When they want to get reelected, they pave a little bit more of the road to say, look, we're helping you. And they're going, yay. And they still don't get the votes, but they at least do their little bit, right? The pandering. So these are the sleeping accommodations. This is how my dad slept at night. That's the back of the truck. That truck is a godsend, really. Cart Webb gave him the money for the truck. The truck is 5 years old. That truck got us from point A to point B, and that is a tough truck. That is a nice truck. It had its issues. I will go into that a little bit because Satan was under continuous attack through this trip. This is where Kiana and I slept. At night, right, the humidity would drop in Salaga. The temperature would drop about 15 degrees. So you're looking at about 85 degrees at about 40% humidity. So we would sleep here on this bed, on this mattress. My father has this contraption where, see, this is where the house is going to be. He's trying to get the donations to build the second building. So that way he has a place for people to stay. I will go over how many people are staying in the house and how much it really is a godsend. You have to understand, their culture is not like our culture. Their way of thinking is not like our way of thinking. To talk to Americans about servanthood is something they need to hear. To talk to Ghanaians about servanthood, you're wasting your breath. Okay? You need to talk to Ghanaians about pride, arrogance, and the reason why they do something, their purpose behind it. But the people as a whole, they're always serving. If I were to talk to Dinah, my sister, or Mercy, who was helping out, Mercy was this wonderful woman. I don't have a picture of her. Kiana does. She was this wonderful woman, and she was staying at the house. Dad didn't want another person in the house. He's like, I don't want anybody else in the house. I don't want anybody else in the house. And they said, okay, Mercy has come in. Mercy's got problems. He goes, put her up in one of the guest houses. Well, the thing is about it is the landlord of the guest house kept trying to sleep with her because she's a single woman. So, and of course, he's getting aggressive. And she's like, I'm scared. And Elijah said, look, what do we do? Dad said, bring her into the house. Just bring her into the house. Just no, I'm not going to have this on my conscience. I'm not going to have something bad happen to her. So just bring her into the house. So this woman is this tough. I mean, she's tough as nails. And so Kiana got bored. So she picked up a broom. She started sweeping up where they keep the motorbikes. And she starts sweeping. And Mercy comes up and goes, here, let me help. And then she just takes the broom. And Kiana goes, what was I going to do? Fight her? Like this, she would whip me. Like this is like there's no doubt about it. She was just like, yeah, okay. And then she kind of just went over and sat back down. Like I'm not gonna fight her. like that's the kind of work ethic they have, though. And I mean that about everybody. And somebody saw that in Mercy, and they said, which is her name, and they saw that in her, and so they hired her in Accra. So a family hired her in Accra to come down and do the housework. She's going to stay in the house and do the housework, which is wonderful because that's the kind of work ethic she had. They didn't have to worry about her. So anyway, so we were staying like this. By the way, if you didn't know, I'm a very heavy sleeper. We actually got caught out in the rain, and Elijah had to wake me up. He said, Brother Clint, Brother Clint, Brother Clint, Brother Clint. And then Kiana just finally hits me, and she goes, Elijah's calling you. And I said, yeah. And she says, is Brother Clint starting to rain? And I'm like, All right, fine. So we get caught out in the rain. Once again, thank you, Satan. Because then we go inside the house, right? There's only one room that's air conditioned, my mom and dad's room. So you got Mama Rose's and Daddy's room. You go into the room, it's air conditioned, right? And what does Satan do? Cuts the power. That's right. Power cuts off. So now I'm like, as soon as the power cuts off, you hear the beep of the air conditioner, like, yep, I'm shut off. And you're like, oh no, because there's no windows. There's a window in the, yeah, it's a big concrete room with no windows because they have the AC and the kitchen's on the outside. There's a window in the bathroom though. So he has to so Dad gets up, props open the window, props open all the doors to try and get a breeze through, because what comes right after that? A downpour of rain. There's no way you're sleeping outside now. So we were like, it was just horrid. So it continued on. Satan tried everything to make it a bad experience, and not a single bad attitude was had. Not one. Nobody got snippy with each other. Nobody got angry with each other. Oh, yeah, that was one of the things. The well dried up. Yeah, they have a hand-dug well. They have a hand-dug well, and then they have a borehole well. The borehole well dried up. So we had to do sponge baths the entire time. So my wife was like, Kiana, she was like, if I'd have known this, I'd have cut all my hair off. Because she was just like, this is... So I helped her and stuff. And Dad had this special trick. He says, you're going to get a heat rash if you don't do this. So what you do is after your bath, you have a small bucket of water and you put baking soda in it. Take the baking soda water and then just lather it over you and then dry off. It'll create a protective layer and you won't get a heat rash as bad. If you get heat rash, it just won't be as bad. And I did get a heat rash around my waist, around my pants line, and a little bit on my chest. Other than that, and Kiana didn't get much at all, which is great because she always gets it. But like I said, you have a guide now. Anyone want to guess what this is? Nope. That is the toilet. Yeah. That's the stink pipe. That's where you go to the bathroom. That's in Bolga. Yeah. Now, Bolga is closer to the border of Burkina Faso, so it's further north than Salaga. It is 108 degrees, and it's about 10 to 20% humidity. So you're like, oh, this isn't bad until you step out in the sun, but if you stay in the shade, you're pretty good. So sleeping outside during this time is great. And I asked Paul, I said, hey, Paul, which is the preacher up there, I noticed that your power doesn't go out. And Paul said, yeah, we don't have a problem that bad with power outages up here, even though we're bigger than Salaga, and Salaga has a big problem with it. We don't have that big of a problem. Well, guess what happened the second night? Yep. For 8 hours during the night, they were like, yep, and rain was coming in. So are you going to sleep outside or are you going to sleep inside with no fan? I chose to chance it and slept outside. Best night of sleep was there. Because, like I said, 10, 20% humidity, and the temperature dropped to about 80 degrees. It was perfect. Best night of sleep. So, but yes, this is where you went to the restroom. So, this is what happened in Bolga also. That's right. That's a flat tire. That's right. And if you'll notice, it's right here. Let me zoom in a little bit. Yeah, that's the sidewall of the tire. That tire was ruined. And you know, it'd be nice if it wasn't a brand new tire as well. Yeah, that's right. The sharp rocks got us, right? Before this, my dad went to turn over the engine on the car, and it locked. It was locked. The key would not turn. It's not chipped, so you can't say the chip went bad or anything like that. Yes, yeah, it's a stick shift, but you can't turn the key. You'd have to have the key to be able to turn to even pop the clutch. So I know what you're getting at with that. No, key would not turn. The steering wheel would not, he jerked on the steering wheel, right, left, he did everything he could. He's fighting with it for 10, 15 minutes. He's popping the trunk to see if he can jump the solenoid. He's doing everything he can to try and figure this thing out. I'm taking the key out and I'm cleaning the key to make sure the tumblers are right. Kiana's in the back praying. She was praying. So because it is hot. And that AC would feel really nice. Even an open window in 35 miles an hour would feel pretty good at the time. Nope. And so then Dad gets in, and count of no more says amen, and it fires right up. Okay? So this is, like I said, this is Satan trying to ruin this. He is trying to make it so that way we have a bad experience. Every experience we had, and I was a little worried that tempers would get short. Nobody got that way. Nobody. The only time that it got a little bit concerning was the well. My dad went and had another borehole dug at 120. It was 120 meters. 120 meters, and still didn't. It still hit sand. He only got about 4 to 10 minutes of water, and it clogged up. Now he's supposed to have a leadership seminar at the end of this month there, and he's trying his best to get that well back going. So pray for that. Pray for that. He's trying to at least get the old one hooked up, trying to blow out the old one, because at least he got 20 minutes of water in the old one. He is trying his best. So, and he had to, and the worst part is he had to shut off the hand dug well. Yeah, he had to shut off the hand dug well to the members of the church, because he had that open for the people so that way they could get water, but he had to cut them out because they had to conserve the water for them. It's the dry season. So, and that's, so now it's like an outreach he can't give them. So, which is horrible. So, like I said, this is what Satan does. Anytime he can just twist a knife, he'll do it. He will take every opportunity to do it. You can't let him get you down. Because trust me, like that's the only time. And then as soon as he got to the point where, well, it is what it is. As soon as he flipped that, everything was right as rain. He's joking again. He's messing around with his daughters. Cecilia was so much fun. Yeah. My dad has this neck pillow she's afraid of. She's deathly afraid of this neck pillow because it reminds her of a snake. And she took his slippers, and he knew it. And so he went and took that neck pillow and set it on top of his slippers in her room. So that way, and he asked for his slippers back. And so she had to take a stick and take the neck pillow, throw it off. It's hilarious. Yeah, it's stuff like that. Nothing got him down. And that's a phenomenal thing. Really, it is. And he sleeps outside. That's like I said, he pointed out, he sleeps in his truck every night. This is at the church in Almeria. So they started off, they had 63 people when I was there, when I did the sermon. Now, part of the sermon, I said to them, I said, would you like to see 100 more people here at this congregation? And they said, yes. And I said, not going to happen. That's not how it happens. You don't say, God, I want 100 more people here, and 100 more people show up. That's not the way it works. But can you talk to 100 more people? And they said, yeah, that you can do. What is within your control, you can do. So you make it a goal. You go out and be motivated to talk to 100 people by the end of this year. You as the individual. And I don't know if it was a sermon or God just blessed him. I prefer the latter of that. God just blessed him. The next week, they had over 80 people there. And I was like, that is awesome. But the guy that's, you can't see him, his name's Collins. The guy that runs it doesn't want to run it. I don't want to be the preacher. So he's trying to con Albert into preaching there. And Albert's like, I don't really want to be the preacher either. So then he's trying to talk to me like, hey, do you want free clothes for life, Clint? I'll have you. And I'm like, I'm not coming into Maria. I'm like, you guys have the workers. You guys have these things. And it was phenomenal. Okay. So they have over 80 people there. And praise God for that. But Collins doesn't want to be the guy that runs it. He wants to be the guy that kind of like the operator. He wants to be the guy that kind of helps out wherever he can, like an elder. That's all he wants to do. This is the chief. Every time you go in, we went into John Boy, you're going to have over 300 people there, which we did. We had over 300 people come to John Boy and preach to hear the preaching of Jesus Christ. Amen to that. Amen to that. So when you're going to have 300 people, which 80% of them aren't from John Boy, you have to talk to the chief. So the chief was like, yeah, hey. And so this guy, and he's kind of top dog. And it was a really funny moment. So Albert and Dad and I were all sitting there, and he comes in. Yeah, and he comes in to speak. This is at John Boy. So that's Daniel. He's leading, and the chief comes in on Sunday to listen to the sermons. And when he comes in to listen to the sermons, they said, "Oh," and my brother-in-law Nathaniel, he did the Sunday morning message with Joseph, of course, interpreting for him. And he says, "Well, at the end, he says, well, we'd like to hear from the chief. The chief, do you have any words you'd like to say?" And he goes, "I was with the Church of Christ." And Dad turns to me and he goes, "I didn't know that." And I turned back and I said, "I didn't know it either." And Albert goes, "Did you just honestly say that?" And I said, "Yeah, I didn't know." And I said, "It's the truth." And he goes, "Yeah, but come on, like, why would you know? You're not here." So yeah, he said he was with the Church of Christ, and what he had done is that since he became chief, he has to be more involved with all the community instead of just the one church. But he asked, of course, the chief always asked for the same thing. They always ask for a mission house, a clinic, and a school. Those are the three things they always ask for. Okay? And the reason why, I mean, you can pick up property there. I mean, how much can you pick up a parcel of property here in Lima? You know, a few thousand, $7,000-8,000. You can pick up one there for like a grand. Yeah, you can pick up. You can basically just take the land, and you can build a house upon it. But unfortunately, and this is all throughout all of Ghana, nobody considers the cost. Nobody calculates the full cost of it, and of course, so now you have a lot of houses that are half done. Yeah, and that's my brother-in-law Nathaniel. That's Joseph, and that's when they are preaching. Nathaniel had a wonderful message. You know, so did Elijah. Elijah had went over Easter. It was so funny. Elijah, when Elijah did his message over Easter, he said, "Well, let's do the math." He said, if he was put to death on Friday, he's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's 3 days, but that's not 3 nights. So really, in all honesty, when did Jesus die? He said he was 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. So when did he die? And he was going over what Easter really is, and why we don't celebrate it. And he went over the fact that he says it's because of the high Sabbath, because he was crucified, and because of these things. And he went over it perfectly. And this is the guy that's leading the church in Siloam when my dad's not there. And he does a great job. And he does it with Nathaniel, and he does it in Joseph. And they have good men leading in that congregation. The Wednesday before we were going to head to Jumboy, Dad literally said, "Do you guys have everything set up?" Only question he asked, and sat there in silence the rest of the time as those men debated as to who did what job and how it was going to get accomplished. All the thing that is needed now is just maintenance. To come in when things are a bit rough and to smooth things over. To say, "No, that's not the way you should do it." I'll use an example for a question. I messed up. I messed up. So they asked this question about dealing with controversy. If you have a woman who is the second wife of a man, and she becomes a Christian, should she take the Lord's Supper? What's the answer? Anybody want to? Men? What would your answer be? You say no, right? Which is what I said. That is incorrect. I got corrected on that. Right. Well, I said it too. All right. You're not alone. All right. Right. And how it was presented was very tactful. I told my dad said I was going to ask a question, and this is what my question was going to be, and I'll ask the question here. And he says, I was going to ask it. I said, don't ever be afraid to ask me a question out like that if it's going to correct what I said. I am not egotistical enough to admit when I'm wrong. And I got up the next message and said, I'm wrong. I am wrong. Okay? If you're wrong on something, you have to be able to admit it. So I said it, I'm wrong. The question was, if a man and a woman are married, if a man and wife are married, okay, and the woman becomes a Christian and they stay together, the man is an adulterer, and goes out and sleeps with other women, but the wife wants to stay to win her husband. Is she wrong? I said, no, she's not wrong. He said, so can she take communion? Yeah, she can take communion. What's the difference? And I went, got me. And I realized before he said, what's the difference? I realized what he was getting at. So I had to say that. I had to say, this is the question that was asked me, and it proved I was wrong. No, if the objective is to win the husband. Now, once he becomes a Christian, that's going to be another problem altogether. But we're going to wait for that to happen because now he has 2 wives. So which one is it going to be his actual wife, and who is he going to have to put away? Polygamy is huge there. That's a big problem. Yeah, polygamy is huge. 2 wives. Yes, he has 2 wives. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
The first question was that a man has 2 wives. The second wife, not the first wife, the second wife becomes a Christian, but she stays with the husband. Should she take communion? And so then the answer is yes, because she's staying with her husband. Even though he's sleeping with another woman, she's still trying to win her husband. So that you go over 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 1 through 6, her chaste conduct could win her husband. And then you go over verse number 7, where it says, husbands, dwell with your wives with understanding. So it takes 6 verses to give women the instruction as to how they should be to their husbands, but men only have 1 verse, verse number 7, dwell with their wives with understanding. To which I could not put this into perspective easy enough. I can do it with you guys. If you can understand why a pizza is in a circle, put in a square box, and cut into triangles, you can understand women then. But you can't, because that's just the way life is, right? But that's the instruction given to us by God. Dwell with your wives with understanding. But the next part of that verse is the key in that, because you are joint heirs with Jesus Christ, which means that it's my job to make sure that woman gets to heaven. It's her job that this man gets to heaven. That's the thing. We are joint heirs together. That's how it works. So that's what he's working with. This is what my dad deals with most of the time. This is what he deals with most of the time. So that's Ulanja there. Obviously, that's Joseph. This is Bawa. But that's Daniel, Peter, and Nicholas. Okay, that dude is big. I saw him. I was like, wow. And he has a voice to match, too. I said I would be less intimidated if he actually had this high-pitched voice. But he's like, hey, how's it going? I was like, well, yeah, totally intimidated right now. I am not going to lie. They brought the muscle in. So anyway, Daniel has an issue. Daniel has a wife, a woman that he wants to make his wife. She's in the church. He is not. So this is what he deals with. Now, when a Ghanaian comes in from a journey, of any journey, the first thing you have to do is greet them. You have to offer them water from their journey, and you have to sit down, and then they go through the whole, this is what I need, this is what I want. Until that man right there, Dad, has the best poker face I've ever seen. I mean it. Between him and my wife, I have a bad poker face. I'm horrible. I have to work on that, because when they were telling him in English, hey, by the way, I have you remember Jennifer? Yeah, I want to marry her, but I'm not in the church, and I'm not in. And my dad goes, oh, well, I need to have counseling with you. I need to have these things with you. He didn't go, they're like, oh, like you're not in the church, and no, that's not happening. Like, no, he had to have the best poker face. He really did. And I'm just back in the back, and I snapped this picture, and as soon as he said that, I was just like, I'm totally observing, I'm soaking it all in, and I'm like, he wasn't even fazed by it. And I'm like, wow, that was impressive. But this is what he deals with I bet you probably 3 times a day. He's dealing with people coming in, asking for help, asking for things, having to sometimes even simply to just have prayer with them. He's like, I need you to have prayer with me. I need you to have prayer over these things. And Dad was like, all right. It's like, yeah, I got you. So even when we were in Jamboy, there was the child that was sick, and they said, well, we want prayer over you. Obviously, he gave them the stuff for the medicine. So it's just like I said, Satan just does everything he can to disrupt it, to disrupt everything. This is Paul. Yeah, this is Paul. Paul is a preacher up in Bolga. Yeah, it's a beautiful woman there. And so we went and stayed at his house. He's a complete
accident.
Yeah, whenever the phone locks, it stops recording. We're back up? Okay, great. So Paul, they don't have whole lot of protein, except when Dinah cooks. When Dinah cooks, she makes the best chicken. She makes the best fish. I had goat. I had goat for the first time. And I'm sitting there eating goat and jamboy that Dinah had made. And I noticed that they keep the skin on. They cook all the hair off. Yeah, yes. And I took the skin. I ate the fat, but I took the skin and I tossed it behind me to let the chickens eat it, right? And Albert goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm tossing the skin." He says, "You don't eat the skin?" And I said, "No. Is that a thing?" And he goes, "Yeah." So I started to eat the skin. I started chewing on the skin. I'm chewing and chewing it and chewing it and chewing it and chewing it. I'm like, my intestines are not going to do well with this. And so I took it out of my mouth and I threw it and fed it to the chicks. And I was like, nope. So I tried. I did try. And Kiana was, I tell you what, she impressed everybody, all the women there. She was like, "I am starving. Do you have anything?" And they said, "Yes, we have tizet with groundnut soup." And she's like, "I'm in. You said my two favorite foods, Ghanaian foods, is tizet and groundnut soup." And I'm like, "Yep, you can keep it. Groundnut soup, no. So that's my personal. I tried groundnut soup. I have tried it and tried it and tried it. I cannot like it. I can't. Anyway, so she was a trooper. This is Paul, and there was another story about his house also, but this is the gentleman that's up in Bolgatanga, and this is and his wife Lucy, and they have 2 motorbikes, and that's how they take them and their 5 kids any place. Is on these 2 motorbikes. 4 kids? No, they have 5.
They're 4.
4, yeah, and his brother's kid. So there's 5 kids there, and then she's pregnant. Yeah. So yeah. This is how we were preaching every night. He has a solid group too. Keep them in prayer, but he has a solid group too. Every time. Oh, yeah, that's every time we did any lessons. This is the lesson that we had Saturday. Every time their whole group showed up. Okay, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they all showed up. They were all supportive. They all wanted to work. During this session right here, though, Kiana had a male suitor come in to the crowd and asked my father for permission to wed my wife. Yes, yeah. He was a little inebriated, sure, yeah. But then my father politely pointed out that I am her husband. And so I stood up to greet him, and he said, "Nah, I'm good." and he left. I don't know. So, yeah, these guys, this is Connie here. Connie was doing a lot of the goading for the teaching. She wanted to teach about how women are to treat their husbands and how women are to act and behave. She wants Kiana to come back and do classes on it. So they're hungry for it. They're hungry for the teaching. And the thing is about it is the same thing with probably every company right now. It's the same with the church. There's just not enough workers. I mean, my dad's got 3 or 4 solid good men. But at the same time, how many churches are they have to do traveling all the time? He's got to have leadership classes to try and bring up and raise up more leaders. This is why, and these are the classes that he's going over with us even. This is him preaching in the church on Sunday morning. Now, they're spread out because it's hot. I mean, like the vented, and that's Paul translating. Of course, my wife over here, and everybody's actually outside the doors on every side. So this is how he's doing his lesson over Revelation. Okay, so because they've even heard about some of the stuff that the government's going to be trying. clear up in the northern part of Ghana, they have heard about all these things. Yeah. So, yeah, and over there is Ariana, who's being quiet as a church mouse while my dad speaks. But when I got up there, she just had to be very loud and boisterous. So after this, of course, because like I said, Satan did not relent. He did not relent. After we left here, we left Bolgatanga, and Kiana goes, I just need to have, because we're going to head back to Tamale. So basically you head south to Tamale, then head east to Salaga, which is about a 5.5 hour drive from Bolgatanga all the way to Salaga. Okay? There are no shortcuts. There's no interstates. There's none of that stuff. So Dad said, we got to get home. We got to get rested up because we're going to go back to Tamale, spend a day with my sister Marta, beautiful, beautiful Marta, who's pregnant with their first child. It's wonderful. It's going to be a boy. And so I said directly to her, don't name it Clinton. Because they name it after family members and such. And she's like, why? I like the name Clinton. Like, they'll always be referenced. Any older person will always reference it to the previous president. Every time. Every time I was introduced to somebody, they said, my father would be very polite and said, this is Clint. This is Clint. He likes to go by Clint. And they'd be like, Clint. And I said, Clinton, if it helps. Ah, the previous president, huh? And I'm like, I haven't heard that one before. Ha, ha, ha. My inner Aaron came out of me. I'm sorry. And so, yeah, I said, and so we go there. We're going to go there and spend time in Tamale. So Kiana said, we're sitting, finally, we make it finally at 8 o'clock, 8:30 at night. We finally make it back to Salaga, which is like 2 hours in the dark in roads with no road lights. And you saw in the road to Jumboy, the paved road has a ton of potholes. And whenever Dad heads back to Salaga, he kind of tends to go a little bit faster. He goes a respectable speed limit, like 55 miles an hour, leaving like, oh man, I'm leaving Salaga, I'm leaving home, we're going to be traveling. Going back, he's going about 65 miles back because he wants to get home, right? Who doesn't? We'll go a little faster. The trip home is a lot shorter, right? He wants to get home. But means the potholes and dark, they kind of creep up on you. So, and thank God for that. So we finally get home. We finally get rested up. That's when the rain hit. That's when the electricity went off. That's when all that stuff happened. So the next day, we're like, So Kiana says, we just need one night of rest. Here it is, Tuesday night. We're going to go back to Tamale on Wednesday. And Kiana goes, I just pray to God. I just need one night of good rest, God. Please don't let the electricity go out tonight. No more than the words left her mouth, that power went out. I kid you not. It went out. And here's everybody just dies laughing. Everybody's laughing. Because that was the most hilarious thing. And that power just slowly came back up and never went out the rest of the night. And so I was just like, that was an awesome, awesome thing. But it was hilarious. That's how positive the attitude was. And then Kiana got malaria. Yeah. So then she starts spiking a fever. And she's like, I got malaria. And Dad goes, you got malaria. You have all the symptoms. I can't get a test for you. I'm sorry. You have malaria. So he puts her on the regimen. You can get the regimen right there over the counter. You just go into the pharmacy and say, hey, I have malaria. I need the pills. So then she starts taking the pills. So the fever breaks for a little bit. So then we get to Accra, right? We fly down from Tamale to Accra. We get to Accra, and Kiana's just like, I'm miserable. This temperature's coming back. So I've taken the medicine. She's halfway through her medicine for the malaria, and which after 24 hours, it does, you're just taking, it's just preventative at the next small leg of it. So, by the way, just out of curiosity, who here knows what malaria feeds on? Found this out. It feeds on the iron in your blood. So if you're taking iron pills, yep, you're feeding malaria. And you have to take the medicine because malaria will continue to grow until it does eventually just kill you. Anyway, so Kiana says, my fever's spiking again. So God bless Albert and Hetty. God bless them. They said, nope, nope, nope. We'll take you to the pharmacy. Take you to the pharmacy. The pharmacist goes, nope, we don't have a malaria test. We don't have a temperature gauge. We don't have anything. So they were like, nope. All right, fine. So they take her to the university there. The university is run by the Seventh-day Adventist. False denomination. My mouth's too dry to say it right. So they go walking into the hospital. It's a hospital. And so then they said, hey, she needs a card. I need her information. She needs a card. I need her ID. I need this. I need this. Okay. I get all the information. I give it to her. She's sitting there in just misery. They take her temperature. She's running 102 degree temperature. It's 102 degrees outside. So now she's running 102 degrees inside. It's 102 degrees outside in the night. So then I'm like, all right. So I'm keeping cool. Like, I'm all right. I'm okay. So then she's like, there's like 95 CDs for her to get a card. I said, okay. So I go and get her card. I go get the card. So then you got to go back over. You have to go over. Boom. All right. Pay for the 95 CDs. Boom. Okay. Here's your card. Go walking back over. All right. Here's my card. And they scan it. All right. Now you got to pay another 95 CDs to run all the tests on her. I said, okay. So I walk over. And by the way, they don't run a single test until you pay. It's not like here where they bill you. Nope. So I walk back over and I said, all right, these are the tests I need. They said, okay, another 95 CDs. I'm like, all right, great. Boom, there you go. I walk back over. Like, all right, here you go. And they're like, here's my receipt. They're like, okay. So then they do the malaria test. Then they do another test. Then they do another test. They do all this blood work on her. And they're like, all right. So now the doctor sees us. And the doctor says, you don't have malaria. Whatever medicine you took, if you had it, it's gone now. And we're like, great. And it's parts per million. You know, they measure how much malaria you have in your blood. He says that took care of it. What you have is a gastrointestinal infection. You're not used to our food, something you've eaten. He says, I ate all the same stuff. I didn't get it. She got it. So either I'm immune to it from the last time, or she got it and I didn't. Which the kids tease her about it. Like, why didn't you get sick? I might have a better immune system. I don't know. Why didn't you get malaria? I'm like, because the mosquito didn't bite me. It bit her. All right, this is common sense. So they walk up. So they said, all right, this is the medicine she's going to need. This is the IV. She needs an IV to get that fever to break. I said, okay. Once again, they do nothing until you pay. So then I had to walk over again. These are the tests I need. This is her card, right? Scan the card. They said, hey, all right, 135 CDs. I said, okay, here you go. Here's 135 CDs. Walk back over. All right. They give her the IV, which I do have a picture of it, but it's in Kiana's phone, of her she's sitting there just miserable, right? 30 minutes after she gets the IV, fever breaks. Wonderful. Praise God, right? Satan this entire time is trying to ruin this. Remember that. This is all Satan. Okay? And by the way, when it was all said and done, do you guys know how much I had to spend on getting my wife healthy? Take a guess in English. In American money, I mean, US dollars. Go ahead, Owen. You know how much is CD? So how much do you think it cost me to get my wife well? $400. 400 US dollars. 400 CDs? No. You're close though, but how much in US dollars do you think it was? Yeah. It was $25. $25 is all I spent to get the card, to get her test done, to get the medicine. $25. There is no insurance. There is no copay. There is no government interference in anything about the doctors. It's all 100% pay. And if that's how it was in America, it would be that inexpensive as well here. To be honest. But since you have to have insurance, right? Because they jack up the prices, because the government steps in and pays off all these bills, boom, boom, boom. So the hospitals just jack up the prices, and that's the way it is. So, yeah. Kiana was even asked if she was scared to have an IV in Ghana. She was like, nope. I was so miserable, I don't care. She was just miserable, right? Because now she's got to be on an airplane for 11 hours, 13 hours total between the two flights. She's got to be on an airplane. Do you think she wants to have a fever and be on a plane for 13 hours? No. So yeah, it said, yeah, like I said, Satan every single step of the way. There were shining lights in the matter. I got my honey. That is right. Dad said that the Goyle station outside of Albert and Hetty sells honey, Clint. Don't worry about it. You can go buy honey at the Goyle station. Did they have honey at the Goyle station? Yeah, like these little bottles of it. I'm like, no, I want a jug of honey. So I go back to Albert and Hetty's, and I step back, we take a little nap in the air conditioning. This is before Kiana went to the doctor. And so Kiana's trying to get as much rest as she can. She's feeling miserable. Their AC is phenomenal there at their house. So I go stepping out, and there's Albert having a Bible study with a young man named Seth. And I said, well, how are you doing, Seth? And he goes, not too bad. And I said, you're the first Seth I've ever met in all of Ghana. I will always remember your name because you're the first Seth I've ever met. Daniels and Pauls and Peters, yeah, I've met all of them. There's like 20 of them. Just yell Daniel out in a crowd. You'll probably get 20 responses back. Anyway, I said, good to meet you, Seth. And he's like, hey. So we kind of like a side conversation. He's a student. I was like, well, if you don't mind me asking a little off-the-wall question, since you're local, do you know where I would get honey? I'm looking for honey to take back to America. And he goes, yeah, I sell it. And I said, like, yes! So I said, I want a jug of it. I said, how much is a jug? He goes, I don't know. We sell it in smaller increments. Let me go check for you. So he goes home after the Bible study is done. Wonderful Bible study he had with Albert. Goes all the way home, texts back. He says, I've got a 6.5 kilogram, which is about 14 and a half pound jug of honey for 250 CDs. So basically, $1 a pound for pure honey. I said, I'll take 2. Kiana goes, what are you doing? Like, we can't afford that weight in our bags. I'm like, I will find a way. We had 24 bars of that soap, and I have got 2 big things of honey now. Right? Thanks to God, I'm not going to shirk the gift God gave me. Come on. Right? It's everything about what God has done for us. And every step of the way, and that's how we have to see it. Every gift I got, I had the ability to go there. Anybody who wants to go, Dad will gladly take you. It's phenomenal. The people there are beautiful people. And as long as you can tolerate the food, right? As long as even then, Dinah will cater. She caters to my mom. Well, everything is properly. If you have Dinah cook for you, that woman can cook. That woman, I am honestly shocked. Nathaniel's not fat. I mean, I'm like, wow. Anyway, and she did insult me. She made hotcakes one day, and I accidentally, because Dad has the raw honey there, and I put too much honey on my hotcake, so I grabbed an extra hotcake and Dinah comes up and she goes, just because I make them, Clint, doesn't mean you have to eat them. And I said, why had too much syrup on my plate? She goes, oh, sweet Clint. And I am like, I so owe you for this. Like, that's how they are. They tease each other, yeah. They tease each other. Everything they do is brother and sister. You are my brother. You are my sister. You are my mother. You are my father. That's their attitude about everything. Other than that, they can keep the climate. Yeah, it's rough. I'm not going to lie. Like I said, you got Bob. He knows what to do. He knows what medicine to give you. He's been through this. He is the best guide ever. And as long as you can set your ego aside, you will learn so much. So much. And it's a true blessing. And it was an honor to be there. It was an honor to be there with him. It was an honor to teach. It was an honor to do all those things. I am so much better for it. And if anybody ever wants to go, he'll take you in a heartbeat. So does anybody, you guys have any questions that you want to ask? Tons, I'm sure. Any prevalent questions? Cost? You guys want to know how many people actually live in the house or anything like that? I'll get into that later because the house is big. The house is huge. But like in all honesty, he gets to the point where it's like, hey, no, we don't want any more people. You don't want any more people. Hey, how many of you guys remember Comfort? In the situation with Comfort? It's a very sad story. Mother died. Father was a preacher. Dad needs a preacher to do travel preaching for him. He says, great. Can Comfort stay in the house and I'll be the travel preacher for one of your travel preachers for you. Comfort can stay in the house and go to the school there. Yes. He starts doing that. He dies. So Comfort is sent back to her family in Yeji, which is the way it's supposed to be. And she forms an infection on her leg. And it's a flesh-eating thing that's tearing up her leg. And so then Isaac tells Dad about it, and he said, bring her back. So he brings her back, and he gets the medicine for her, and she's been at the house ever since. She is a wonderful, wonderful help. And now she's studying to be a seamstress. She has a job. Cecilia's studying to be a nurse. Oh, and by the way, just before we got there, chickenpox ran through the whole place. Yeah, Satan again. Remember that? Oh, baby Rose was so miserable. Oh, she's just a sweet, sweet girl. And I'm like, I'm sorry you feel bad. She just looks at me with the death stare like, you have no idea what I'm going through. Like, and her little brother Josiah is like, ha, 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 ha. And she's like, you're next. Yeah, well, yeah, her mom was like, you're next. Shut up. And he never got it. He never got it. I was like, oh, isn't that cruel? Satan just was like, nope, I'm not going to give it to him. So, yeah, and after she got healed up, after she was done, and she was such a delight, such a beautiful girl to be around at that point. So because she was just like so happy because she could move again. She wasn't miserable because she had to sit there with all the powder all over her, just sit there and do nothing. It was just horrible for her. So other than that, I really don't have anything else. I'm sure you guys have a ton of questions that you want to ask that you don't want to ask on camera. So thank you. And let's pray. Glorious God and Father in heaven, Lord, I thank you and praise you for every opportunity you've given us, God, to gather together, to be a part of you and your word, and God, to know that the work is being done over in Ghana and how strong it is. I am thankful for that. I'm honored for that. And anybody who wants to go, God, I pray they go. I thank you and praise you in your Son's holy name. Amen.